Well, welcome divas and dudes to Powerhouse Bakery. This is our final session in the Mediterranean, at least for a while. I never say we're never going back because it's been so much fun, and we've only just touched the tip of the iceberg when it comes to learning about the cuisine and all kinds of fabulous things that come from the Mediterranean. So today I want to cook some items from the world of Turkey, and you'll probably feel like, you know what, that sounds sort of familiar, or it might even be something you've tried before in a Greek restaurant. And as you know from our video work, certainly Turkey is not that far from Greece, and there's a lot of sharing. What you will find is there's some uniqueness about the Turkish influence, and so that's what I really want to show you today. I'm going to show you a very simple recipe and then one that is a little more lengthy, and that way, you know, depending on your time frame and application, you'll have two to pick from. So I'm going to show you here, this is our dolmas. So this is the version of the appetizer. So it's going to have rice in there, so it is vegan. You could certainly use meat. This one is going to be with just a seasoned rice. So I'm going to show you how that one is done with those beautiful grape leaves. And then I'm going to cook with some of these beautiful lentils. So we talked about this in the past, and these are these beautiful red lentils, and they do cook fairly quickly and easily. And so I'm going to start with really just putting all of our goodies in the pan and start sauteing. This is supposed to get really completed in about 30 minutes, start to finish. And so I love the fact that, you know, these lentils cook quickly. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to rinse and cook for a long time, because you really don't. So I'm following pretty much that recipe that I have up here for the mercimek, and that is the name of this lentil, fabulous lentil soup. And it's very nice to serve hot or cold. There were some ingredients that I had a hard time finding, so I did a substitution, so I'll show you that in a minute. But tomato paste is really traditional when we're looking at all of the Mediterranean. Do you remember the flavor that tomato paste is supposed to sort of impart? Remember that certain word, umami? The umami flavor, it's a little rich. It's a little bit more robust than fresh tomato, so I think that's kind of neat. Of course, we would be lost without onion. And cumin and then Aleppo pepper were items that I had a hard time finding. And so what I did was I just did a little combination of my adobo spice, which I use at Powerhouse Bakery, and a little bit of cumin and salt. So I just mix those together. And, you know, definitely get in the habit of using these beautiful little dishes. It's so much fun to be able to put everything out and have your mise en place. So I'm going to do that. Here is our tomato paste. Here's our spice blend. And of course, I just put in the onions. And I have also some shallots, which some recipes encourage you to use shallots. I'm not going to use them in this dish, but I thought I might use it in the grape leaves, in the dolmas. But, you know, shallots are just beautiful, and I want to show you what they look like whole. I think I left them on here. Well, maybe I didn't. They look like a little mini onion. So anybody familiar with? Yes, good. They're just beautiful. And so it's something that we really want to use as much as we can. And, you know, it's synonymous in many recipes with onion. It's going to sometimes be a little bit spicier, but I just chopped that one up, and I'm going to put it in towards the end of the cooking. And now I'm going to add in my tomato paste and mix that right in. I want the onions to get, just lucid. It says just when they start getting a little bit clear. So now I'm starting to add in the tomato paste, so you're not going to see that as well. But for the most part, you can see that we don't want to cook them down too much. And here comes my spice. And I'm going to also put in, I think I've got my Aleppo pepper. The water's going to go in at the end, but I just combined the cumin and the Aleppo pepper. Is it starting to smell good? Yes. You know, it says 1 teaspoon. I guess I didn't finish that. Sorry. It says one Aleppo pepper. since I didn't find it, I did 1 teaspoon of my homemade spice, which is a blend of other peppers. I did go and ask the guy at HEB if they carried it, and sadly they don't. My hunch, though, is we could probably find it at a Mediterranean store. Anybody find one in the area? Yes. Alibaba. There we go. So now I'm going to add in, this is 1.5 cups of lentils. I did a little bit larger than this batch because, you know me, I hate to waste, and there was a little bit left in my bag. So I thought, well, let's just throw it all in. And lentils are not hard to cook. So getting that little bit of initial saute is really going to help to get lots of sugar development from those onions, and it toasts up the spices. I wouldn't even be too offbeat by adding the cumin in as well and letting it toast in a dry skillet and then adding the oil. Again, it just gives it another layer of flavor. But you can always leave the salt at the end as well if you wanted to, and let that just, do salt to taste. But almost always lentils are going to need a pretty hearty dose of salt. So that's just going to cook away there. I'm going to add in the water here in just a second. The other thing that's good to remember when you're cooking lentils is a really simple water ratio. You just put in some water. It's not as strict as rice where you have to do the 2 to 1. With lentils, it's just not nearly as strict. If you want the water to boil off, you just leave the lid off and it boils off. Occasionally we'll even drain the water. I try not to get that much extra water though, because you don't want to rinse off your spices. So I tend to go a little less water and always adding in if I need it. So again, rice is being cooked by the steam, so it's really critical. This one is so easy. So when my boys are, we're learning to cook at first, I had them start with lentils because it's a lot more forgiving than rice. Rice is actually pretty hard to cook just right. Okay, so here goes my water. I'm just gonna bring it up just the top, so won't use all of it at first, and I'm just going to put the lid on it and let this kind of boil away. I'm going to put it on medium high heat. The temperature is, let's see, it's probably about 325 if you had a temperature gauge on your stove. That looks beautiful. It's going to start boiling again, so I'm just going to watch it. I love having clear lids. You can really check on it if you want without even opening it. So while that's cooking, we are going to build some grape leaves in the dolmas. So it does take a bit of technique, I'm not gonna lie. You can tell I wasn't a perfect roller. Like this one is quite large, that's a daddy size. This is just about the right size, I think. But nature does make a point when they have different people sizes and different grape leaf sizes. So I'm gonna move these off and let you see how we roll it. So in some of the large ones, I did end up doing 2, and I kind of folded them together. So I want you to get to see how we do this. These come in a jar. Has anybody ever used grape leaves before? Yay! Okay, I see some heads nodding. So this is the mixture that I already made. So I'm going to assemble it for you in just a minute, but I kind of wanted to get started with assembling the rolls too. So it's uncooked rice, and it's all the spices and onion and parsley and mint and just a fabulous blend. And here are my grape leaves. So you can see some of them have little holes in them, and some of them are just beautifully sized. So it really does vary, and you just have to kind of play with it and be okay if they're not perfect, because they do cook for a while. Now, I use this pot. So last night when I did my, I did like probably a dozen and a half little rolls, and I loaded them into my cast iron. So this is nice and heavy, doesn't stick as difficult as some things, so it's easy to work with. And what I did was roll them, put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom, roll them, put them in, stack them, and then put the water on. So the water doesn't really go into the rice, it goes around the rice. So I'm going to flip around my recipe now so you can see. Don't get your toe in there. There you go. Okay. Okay, so in the dolmas, 2 cups of rice, and then we've got the finely peeled tomatoes. I used this beautiful Homey brand. Love this product. And parsley, onion, garlic, cayenne pepper. Here's an interesting one. I could not find any dried mint. So here's a good variation. Fresh is always fantastic. So don't be afraid at all to do that substitution. And so I've got this beautiful fresh mint that I'm going to chop up and as I assemble our rice. But I kind of wanted you to see all the fantastic ingredients that go in here. Anybody ever work with sumac? Another interesting one I could not find. And then salt and lemon. I'm going to turn this one off. Tomato paste again, and then they're grape leaves. So these grape leaves have been in my pantry for, gosh, probably over a year, and they hold up beautifully. You can also buy them fresh, and you would have to take the extra step of boiling them, cooking them, you know. You could probably steam them as well. But I love the fact that they are so hardy that they just lasted on my shelf in that jar. For, you know, fair amount of time. So when we start to do the rolling, I'm going to line them up. So again, this one's a little small, so I'm just going to do a side diagonal. Takes about a tablespoon of this beautiful mixture. It's probably about like that. See, now I can already tell I didn't do a good job lining them because you kind of want to be able to fold the edges in. So fold in and in. And then tuck it all the way around. And you get this beautiful little roll. And so I'm going to layer them in. I've already added my olive oil. So this is my skillet / stock pot. And I'm just going to layer them in. Here's another one. So hopefully you can see it. Bring it forward a little bit. So again, it's got a natural little hole there where the leaves come together. And when you use, now I have a regular white rice in this one, but you could certainly use a wild rice, and that would just be a fabulous variation. So pull them into the side and roll it snug. And so even if it doesn't hold in beautifully, it still is going to be pretty darn good. It kind of cooks it in place too. So notice that these were about the same way, where I didn't have it tucked in perfectly, and it actually does just fine. So no one's made dolmas before, but you've used grape leaves, right? Somebody, you want to share what you've done with them?
Yeah, stuff them with rice.
Okay.
Just like you're doing. Yeah,
okay.
very similar.
So it just wasn't maybe called dolmas, but it was the same idea.
Right.
Okay, so here I'm doing this direction and this direction, and it's going to give me a nice wider base, because I notice when I'm doing my folding, the edge that I want to fold in is a little bit short. So all about geography and geometry. There we go. I think that one's going to be better. Fold in, and wrap.
Right.
Exactly. Like a burrito. Perfect. I'm going to check on our lentils. Let's see, I'll use this spoon. They are looking beautiful. See how quickly they cook and steam up my glasses? So I'm going to add a little more water so you can see in there. Looking beautiful. So again, this is like a 30-minute dinner and great as leftovers. Oops. And we're going to serve this kind of a room temperature, but adding a little bit of lemon juice at the end is a great add-in. It also suggests carrots. You could add potatoes, making this one a little bit, richer if you wanted to, but I just love these dolma. Very soft, quick cooking lentil. Okay, it's going to keep going. Let's continue with our beautiful grape leaves. Now we also could do this with a lamb dish. I've actually done that before in my cooking days. I used to be a part of a gourmet dinner club, and so twice a year it was my turn, and we would do something really elaborate and all the bells and whistles. And so for the Mediterranean dish that I used, I did make dolmas, but honestly I don't remember the rice being raw, so I bet there's several different ways that we could do this. So see, that works out pretty good. So when I did it with lamb, I had to really keep the meat fine because you want it to cook in this. So again, it's raw, but when I bought it from the butcher, I had to get really well ground up lamb because it's otherwise it's hard to really work with. So notice the small rice, certainly makes it workable in this little leaf. Ooh, this one's going to work better. See, ooh, yeah, nice and snug. I've also seen recipes where they combine the rice and the meat. So again, always starting with raw and letting it steam in these grape leaves. Now, last night when I cooked these, I noticed that the grape leaves were a little tough. So I had to let it cook a little bit longer to make sure that it's easy to bite through. Whole Foods used to sell these on their salad bar, and it was one of my absolute favorite items. Ooh, this is a great one. Look at that. Even though it's got the little hole in there, I'm going to put the layer of rice right there in the center. And then fold each edge over. So yeah, so they used to have them on their salad bar, and now that Amazon took over, you don't have nearly as much variety. See, that one turned out great.
Can you use brown rice in that?
Absolutely. Yes, brown rice, or I would even do a blend of brown and wild rice. You betcha. I love that idea. Here's another beautiful one. Ooh, that might even be two. So yeah, I'm thinking that this kind of a elaborate, process. So I would make a bundle. I mean, it makes a lot of rice too. And I would freeze them. So do the whole cooking process. And gosh, what an exotic picnic item you could bring out and surprise your guests. In Texas, we're so kind of set in our ways. If there isn't a taco at the party, something's wrong, right? So this is a taco. It's just a slightly different taco. Exactly. Yes.
Suzanne, the leaves are in a brine.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sorry I didn't bring the jar. I had meant to. It looks like the same size as an olive jar. So it's I think it was a 16 ounce. The recipe called for a pound. Did I write that on there? No, I didn't, because I thought that was a really odd descriptor. I don't know where you'd find a pound. Maybe again at that Mediterranean restaurant, it would be described like that. But yeah, so the other thing is, I did not put parsley in this batch. We're going to do it in our batch. When I was at home prepping this, I just happened to not have any parsley. And so I went out to my garden and I got plenty of mint, and then I also used a cilantro paste. So, I'm all about adjusting if need be, and that's definitely what happened yesterday. And so it turned out really fine. The cilantro paste was just a product that I had made probably a month ago and froze it. So it was just chopped up and lightly sauteed. It was olive oil, of course, the cilantro, and a little olive oil. And so the nice thing is there's all kinds of ways to adjust this whole process of, cooking in a grape leaf. It's kind of being steamed, and it has such a great way to package it and get your greens at the same time. Our lentil stew is looking beautiful. So I'm going to use an immersion blender here in just a little while and make it creamy, but you would not have to. You could just leave it like this. I thought it was so pretty creamy because it reminded me a lot of my butternut soup, which we serve here all the time. And whenever I'm working with patients from the Start Center, I'm always trying to teach them to make sure you get lots of soluble fiber. And sometimes beans are not going to agree with everybody's tummy, but lentils are just a different category. They seem to be a lot more willing to digest easily, and even sometimes onions are a problem, but when you blenderize it, it just makes it such an easy product to enjoy and fit in a lot of people's palates. I'm going to put a little more in. The recipe did call for 6 cups. I don't know if I'm going to use it all, but we'll see. And that's why I always like to go a little at a time, because it's so hard to take out, but you can certainly keep adding in, Now, of course, with rice, it's a whole different story, but this is looking really good. Again, I have my heat on medium to medium high, If I put in all the water and I thought, darn, it's going to be too runny, I could leave the lid off and crank up the heat and, you know, it'll cook it down. But I am going to try next time adding in the carrots and the potatoes. I would probably pre-cook both of those, like a roasted version, and then add it in. I might even do the processing and then add in the chunky vegetables at the end. That would give a nice variation too. All right, we got a couple more. And then I want to show you how I mixed all these items together. I know, right? And I was almost tempted to put a larger amount in, but I thought, well, maybe this one I can really tuck in the edges. So this is, I'm definitely not a pro at this. I'm not going to lie.
Suzanne, did I miss where the water hasn't gone in there yet? Correct?
No, it hasn't. Great question. In fact, all truth be told, I kind of did it wrong, and I put some of the water into this mix. Truth be told. So it's not going to ruin it, because I let this sit overnight and the white rice absorbed most of the water. But I want you to see, you know, when I follow it correctly, how different it is. So you're going to have the moisture from the tomato, and then the herbs and the onions and the mint and the parsley, and it's going to come out very similar. Probably I also kind of got lucky that since I didn't put in the fresh parsley, there wasn't as much moisture. And so adding that little bit of water, you know, didn't kill us. But it was so counterintuitive for me to not put the water in that, yeah, I kind of boofed on that one. Okay, but this is another great one. Fold it in and over.
That recipe, Suzanne, is that how much it makes?
It makes a lot. This is all the same recipe. And my husband and I ate like 3 or 4 of them. So, you know, we always have to double check. I wouldn't want you guys to eat anything that I haven't already tried. Yeah, taste test. And this rice, okay, I also want you to know that this is not my recipe exactly, because it asks for quite a bit of cayenne pepper. But I just wanted to follow it as much as I could, especially since I didn't have the bow for the other one. And so it's got a little bite to it. So of course you could leave that out. And I just think that there's so many fun ways to add variation. So now I want you to see how I'm kind of packing them in. And it says to do that, kind of line the pan with the rolls. And if you had extra, then you're supposed to put it into a cup and right in the center and let it steam and cook right around with the rest of the grape leaves. Not sure how that would actually execute, because if you don't put water in that, I'm not sure how that would work. I did not try that yesterday, but I've got just about all of this filled. And honestly, it didn't hurt it really to have the water, like I mentioned. So what else could we fill these with? What do you think?
Raisins.
What was that?
Raisins.
Ooh, raisins.
I've had them with raisins and I've had them with pine nuts.
Yes, ma'am, Maria. That's a great point. Yeah, this one doesn't have those, but that's such a tradition in the turkey dishes that we've seen. The Turkish love adding pine nuts and raisins and currants. We've seen that really throughout the Mediterranean, that adding sweet and dried fruit and nuts is truly part of their cooking. And that's really not something we do in Texas, adding sweet fruits. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there, oh, look, that one turned out good. I'm getting better. Tucked in corners. Mm-hmm. Yeah, is there any dish in the Hispanic culture or the All-American that uses sweet and savory together? I can't think of anything.
Is it pepper in a restaurant we went to, Chile in Nevada, and it's got a white creamy sauce on it and pomegranate.
Ah, there you go.
So it's a little bit on the sweet side.
Yes.
There's meat in there, so it's nice combination.
Well, you know what it makes me think of too is the mole.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh-huh. And I don't know that we could really say it's sweet, but it certainly uses an exotic chocolate. This one's going to come out really good too. Look how the leaf is just the right size. It's got enough to pull into the sides. Now, when I was reading through different recipes, it tells you to look for the shiny side of the grape leaf. Now, I'm going to hold one up and you tell me if you can tell the difference between the shiny and the not shiny. So, specimen A and specimen B. Other side. Oops, it's sticking together. Hold on. Can we tell the difference? I'm going to flip it over. Can you tell a shiny versus a not shiny? They both seem shiny. I know. I mean, so if I look at them again, I don't know. And maybe that's a little more dull. Maybe. What do you think, Evelyn? You're closest. Shiny, slightly dull. I can also maybe say that the vein side of the grape leaf would be maybe the dull side. Yeah.
So do they want the shiny side in or out?
Shiny side up. So shiny side up when you're rolling it. So that means the vein side is down. Now it might be to make sure they get cooked well because the vein is a little bit tougher. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it's close. Okay. So now I'm going to spread them out and you can kind of see. Yeah, okay, now I'm almost going to be able to tell. So there's the vein side and the shiny side. Little bit? Yeah. Yeah, so I would almost say the vein side and the, I don't know. But these are the things that a recipe has a hard time really describing when you can't see it and get to play with it. So always getting to look and feel is part of it. Okay, now I'm probably gonna get maybe one more out of this and then we'll get busy making our next batch. Okay, so that's my last one. Fold it in and in. You know what also this reminds me of is when during the holidays people make tamales, right? And it's really all about the process of making them, and it takes a long time, but you finally get the completed product and it's a big celebration. Okay. Yes, yes. Isn't that neat? So, and that's why I wanted you to see the assembly of it, because even if you didn't want to bother with all of the grape leaves and folding, it's a pretty yummy way to make rice. And as we've, really noticed, the Mediterranean does not hold back on complex carbs. And so I love the fact that this is really something that we can enjoy and celebrate as a healthy option. So, grape leaves, bottom. I'm going to put this on, I think I'm going to put it on this side, and I'll let it start cooking.
So Suzanne, when you say lemon on the recipe, do you mean the lemon juice on the rind? Or?
Yeah, the juice, I always use the rind and the juice. So that's why I kind of put lemon. And it wants you to squeeze the lemon on after cooking. So I'm going to add some water to this, and I might have to go get some more water because I'm going to put a little in this to cook. Mary, I might ask for some more. Thank you, ma'am. Just like 3 cups. Okay, so you can see I covered it, and you can see it's kind of shiny because I added the oil in the beginning. So I don't know if you can see that. So it's just enough to cover the grape leaves. Probably could use a little more when she brings some more. I'd like to just make sure that they're all covered. And then I'm going to put it on. Beautiful. That's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so again, just so that it covers them all, because we really kind of want them to cook long enough to be really soft.
So the water's covering it?
Yeah, just covering it. And I'm putting it on medium high. And now let's see how our beautiful dish over here is going. So Mursamek, have you ever heard that term before? Mursamek? I'm having the hardest time remembering it because I've never heard that one. And I admit the Turkish pronunciation and everything about the language is really new for me. So I'm still in the learning curve. So I'm going to pass this around because I just love these. And again, I learn with you guys every single week. And I hadn't really used this before. I always just thought the green is better. But I did a very similar dish without knowing it was Mercimek. And I just thought it was wonderful. It has a little more graininess than a split pea soup, but the nutrition profile is excellent. So in a quarter cup, you get 9 grams of protein, 8 grams of fiber, 21 grams of carbs for 100 calories. I mean, that is amazing, you guys. So that's why I'm thinking lentils need to be a part of our normal every week shopping trip. And a little aside, when I was at the doctor's with my husband yesterday, and I love this physician. He's probably in his mid-30s. He's vegan, very slender guy, and he loves learning about different vegan dishes. And we were talking about what I was doing today, and that red lentils are fabulous, and he'd never heard of them. So, it's fun that people are trying to become more involved with plant-based cooking. But what happens is the media kind of directs us to what? Beyond Meat, right? The commercialized soy product. I know, I feel the same way, Rachel. So going back to the family of minimally processed foods that we can learn from other cultures is such a great way to go. And so I'm going to bring him some of our special soup, because those red lentils are just power packed. And also, he was talking about getting help for his clients or patients, because they are so in the mindset of how much protein do I need? If I'm going to eat plant-based, I need a lot more protein, right? And he absolutely disagrees with that. So that's really speaking my language, because when we start looking at the data that is maybe more recent, we're finding that people do so great on less protein than what we thought. So, 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, or if we go in kilograms, and that's just a lot. So that would mean that if you were a 5'5" woman, you would need around 90 grams of protein, and that's a hard one to meet. So the good news is you can eat 9 grams of protein in a cup of lentil soup and really get a great nutritious meal out of it. So I love to just ease our mind. We don't have to add chicken or turkey. We certainly can, but it wouldn't be obligatory as far as health goes. So, all right, anybody never used immersion blender before? Yes? Okay, dun-ta-dun. So right? But first I have to bring it all the way in, get it submerged. I know, right? See, it does it beautifully. Now, to really get a good surface area, I kind of have to lift it up and down. Rachel, were you in the front row last time I got it? And it got a little bit tight? See, it's working great. It forms a little bit of suction because that whir is going under. There's a little blade. I don't know if you can see it. So you have to really have some careful handling, because of course it can spray, but also it wants to pull down. It kind of creates some pressure. It's just a little blade inside there. So you don't want to let it touch the bottom of your pan, and you don't want it to come all the way out. So having a deep pan that you're working in really helps. All right. Can you see it? I think that's probably enough. And I'm still kind of a fan of having a little bit of texture. I'm going to pass this around so you can see it. Absolutely. It's it's nice because you don't have to get the blender dirty, and you can do it all in the one pan. And they're actually pretty inexpensive now. H-E-B has started selling them. I think it was, I bought one for maybe $20. And so honestly, I thought I would never use one, but now that I have it, I do use it. When we make our Powerhouse Bakery cheese, it's cottage cheese, goat cheese, and garlic. Oh, it makes it so much easier than trying to get it all off the blades of a food processor. Yes, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to bring it down onto the table so you can see how creamy and pretty it is. It has a little bit more of a brown color because of the cumin, so I could certainly leave the cumin out if I wanted to keep it a brighter color. What bright color could I add in to pull up the orange?
turmeric.
Yes, exactly. Turmeric. You guys are so smart. So yeah, that is so pretty. So I'm gonna let this cool down, and after class we'll get to sample it along with our dalmas, and makes it so fun to get to sample our cooking. So this is boiling away. It looks great. I'm not gonna lift it because I want to keep that steam in there, but I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit because I don't want to boil away my water. But when I was cooking these yesterday, I left it on for 45 minutes. I had just a tiny bit of water above the dalmas, and it worked out great. I love how heavy this is, so it really holds the moisture in. It's still stuck a tiny bit. I see a couple of them are a little bit brown, but not bad at all. And if you don't already have a cast iron pot, HEB sells them. Again, very inexpensive, and I just love it. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off.
Suzanne, did you say cook it for 30 minutes, the donuts?
These cook for 45, and honestly, I thought it needed more, so I turned it back on. What the recipes will tell you is check to see if the rice is done. Well, now you had to unroll a beautiful dalma. I didn't do that. Some of it did pop out, so you can see, again, because I'm not a very good roller. But I just felt like the leaves were a little tough when we sampled them. So I put a little more water in and let them cook more, and it turned out much better. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of this. And I want to make you this beautiful rice dish. So it calls for pepper. Now, something that is really important to me is I love to use fresh ground pepper. This recipe wanted just pepper, so I reluctantly put it in my little dish, but I really prefer this. So again, this is a Suzanne thing, but I just feel like if we're going to use something like Aleppo pepper or chipotle or ancho, we can use that one ground, and that'll give some good pepperiness, but there's nothing like fresh ground. So I honestly would reduce this, add a little more of the reds, even if it's a soft smoky pepper, and then do fresh ground right around it. So it just makes it so pretty. Okay, so this is going to be where I build. I'm going to get my rice. And you guys can help me with all the ingredients. So I've got rice and water. The water goes in at the end. And what else do I need? Onion, parsley, garlic, lemon. What else? Got that. And some beautiful mint. Yes. So it also, one of the recipes said to rinse the rice. I've never done that. Anybody know why we would need to rinse rice? Extra starch off? Okay. I'll go with that. I didn't rinse it, but I guess you could. I'm gonna do some chopping here. Now I did a little bit of pre-chopping, so you didn't have to just watch me cutting, but I always love to have a chance to talk about cutting skills and making sure you have a knife that you love. Anybody have a favorite knife? Yes? You want to describe what your favorite knife looks like? Yes! Good. Yes. Yes! So learning how to sharpen yourself is so good, so you don't have to wait for your hubby. Do you have a stone, or do you have a rod? A rod. Nice! I love it. This one is Wusthof. I don't even think you have to use a fancy brand, but I do think for sure getting a size that feels good. This is probably the most popular for us women, an 8-inch. Do you have one like this, Elaine? Good. They're not expensive. I mean, you could spend $50. And like I tell my team, when you find a really good knife, it becomes an extension of your art. It also feels really good in your hand, and you don't have to grab at any other knives. So don't let Cutco try to sell you a dozen different knives. You really just need one great one. So I've got my parsley, and so I've already done a little bit of a chop. I'm going to do a little bit more. So I'm going to always hold one hand in, and I keep pushing my herb right into my hand. I keep the tip down, and I'm rocking back and forth so you can see. I'm going to make sure you can really see. I'm going to put all my stuff over here. There. So when I chop, I felt bad for Brenda when she was cooking with us. She's so much taller than me. She had to really bend over. So one advantage is being short. Okay, so here goes my parsley. And you can read my recipe there. And how much parsley did it call for? Got it. So that's about a third. Right about there. Okay. And then I've got my onion already chopped. And now my beautiful mint. So again, I didn't find any dried mint. And so do take note of that recipe ratio. I think that's a really good one. I've used that in the past. It's just one that I made up. But going from fresh to dry, so 3 tablespoons of fresh. If your recipe calls for, dry. And again, it's always so nice just to get your fresh mint. I had to buy it this morning because I used up all my mint from my garden yesterday. But if you don't already have mint growing in your garden, please do. It grows prolifically. And I just paid $4 for that. And it's just crazy when you can go out to your yard and pick some. And it feels kind of special when you get to use your own. You guys all have a garden in yet? Yes, yes? Yay, awesome. So notice too that I'm taking out the stems. I'm even taking out this center stem. So I don't like to have any stems. And again, it's just me, but I much prefer it to be just the leaves. If I'm doing a stalk, I can use stems, but I just love to keep it really fresh. And sometimes the stem will be a harsh bite, and it also might make it bitter. So this is probably a little generous on the side of my 3 tablespoons, but I always add a little extra on my herbs. Let's see, do I have a tablespoon? So I'll kind of get close. So that's a tablespoon, right? 1, 2, 3. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to add in my garlic. So this is, how much garlic did it call for? Yeah, 4 cloves, which is pretty good amount. And I would never ever use the preserved ones. Don't use the preserved ones. And how much onion? So I already did measure that. So 2 cups. My bowl's going to get too full here when I get the rice in. So I'll probably have to transfer it. But at least we've got all those beautiful flavors. What am I missing? The sumac. And I'm using my little blend that I made myself. And I'm sorry? Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, I wish I had you around when I was shopping this morning. Absolutely. Okay, so I mean, you can't go wrong when you're putting all these fabulous flavors along with some rice. And here is my 2 cups of rice. And again, it's going to get pretty full, so I'm going to trade my bowls. But so no, I didn't rinse the rice. And maybe I will one of these days try that. I just thought it seemed like it was more trouble than it was worth. But I wanted you to see how dry this mixture is. And when it goes into the dolma leaves, I'm going to pull those leaves out again, and we can try. Maybe it'll make it even easier to roll them if there's no liquid coming out. Now I know I still have to put my tomatoes in, right? And what else? I added the salt. I added that little blend together. So it's my, because remember the Powerhouse Bakery spices don't have any salt. So I added that in. And the cayenne, yes. Good. All right, and no paste? Garlic paste, yes. There we go, garlic paste. That's not going to mix very well because it's so dry. I probably should have put that in with the herbs. And of course the lemon, I'm going to squeeze that in too. And it calls for 1 lemon. So I really should have brought my zester out, and I didn't this time. So get the seeds out, squeeze it in. I could have certainly mixed my paste in with this too, and that would have made it easier to blend in. So mint, basil, garlic, lemon. What a great combination. I definitely want you to cook with mint more often. Promise me that you will use it at least in a few things every week because it's fresh and just so neat. We add it to eggs here at the bakery. We add it to our real deal, which is our spaghetti squash and turkey meatballs. We add it to all kinds of just dishes that make it feel and taste so fresh. Of course, salads. All of our salads, I love to add in mint. So you see, it's quite a bit drier than that last batch that I made. I'm going to add the tomato in last. And if you don't already buy this, I mean, I feel sorry for the cook that has to cook and then peel her tomatoes and then chop them. That's so much work. So I'm not going to put the whole container in. I think it calls for 1 cup. Yeah, my bowl's kind of full, so I'll divide it out in a second. But I just love the texture. So if we didn't want to bother with the grape leaves, I would put this mixture into my pot and of course add the water and just cook the ingredients just like this. Lemon, thyme, parsley, all the peppers. If you can find the Aleppo pepper, oh, it'd be so good. Maria, did you say you've used Aleppo before?
No, I've seen it, but I've never used it.
Yeah.
Is it like a vegetable pepper or is it a spicy one?
You can get it both ways. I mean, I did look it up on the internet, and just like an ancho chili, you can buy, or poblano, and of course you can buy it dried too. So I definitely want to have a field trip, and we can go look at that Alibaba and check it out. So yeah, I can tell this is going to be so much easier to work with. So let me grab my grape leaves, and we will do another little wrap up. And these just keep going and going. I mean, there's so many in that jar. It's like, not more. And I probably could have gotten a lot pickier and not even used the ones that were torn or small. Maybe that's the intention. You expect to throw away some, but I will use up all this rice and then get all of these ready to go.
So when you say cook it in a pot without doing the leaves, it's like a soup?
It would be still a rice.
Okay.
Yeah. Like even maybe the Mexican rice where you saute this and then put it in. So yeah, if I had my other skillet up here, I could do that for us. Okay, so that looks good. And so now I want you to get to see if it's, so it feels grainy, because it's dry. And again, the one that I rolled for you earlier was sitting in that water. So the granules for sure are going to cook faster than this particular one. So I'm going to fold it in and around. Oh yeah, and there's no water that pops out. So yeah, definitely an improvement. And I ended up using about maybe 50% of the tomato. But yeah, that looks great. All right. Oh, no, that one fell apart. Let's try again. Yeah, I think the trick is to not even try to use the leaves that are a little bit small. Now, of course, it gets me curious. I wonder if we could use these grape leaves in a layered dish, and like almost a lasagna of sorts. I don't know. I was just kind of thinking out loud on that. So yeah, that looks really good. So there you have it. So let's double check on our beautiful soup. I actually don't love the color. I think, yeah, I think
It's already.
Oh, it turned you off, huh? I think, again, we're not used to it, and we're used to seeing butternut, but it's a creamy, beautiful color. Now, I do have some harissa that we can drizzle on it and give it a bright color variation. We could also put some parsley on it. And so let me use one of these bowls, and I'm gonna just serve us up some so we can see how pretty we can make it. I'm gonna get a little
So
super.
if you didn't blenderize it and you just ate it like the lentil, it would be okay, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if the color, if the color bothers you, for sure, try different things. It's the cumin, Oh, thank you, ma'am. That's perfect. I don't want to put it in that until it's really cool. See, it doesn't bother me at all. But I know what you mean. So if we did that,
It doesn't look pink when they were raw. But
right.
now their taste is completely different.
Very true. Yeah, we can't expect that pretty pink color, which I wish we could. Now, if you cook them less, maybe so. But I've never seen that bright pink color stick around. Yeah. So I think, to really add a little more interest and intrigue, we could also put the carrots and potato in that. And I didn't bring my harissa sauce, and it's so spicy. I didn't want to put it on for you guys until you knew what you were dealing with. But I think that looks pretty. And we could certainly do a little zest of lemon and a little bit of juice. And here we can even do a little touch of the tomato paste. A little bit of, see, so that dresses it up, don't you think? So, I know you're thinking not exactly. Let's check our beautiful dolmas and see how they're doing. I'll go ahead and open them up because we're just about finished, and I want to give you time to sample. These are looking gorgeous. Hold it up with my hot holder. Look how pretty. See, so they've absorbed the water, so yeah, I'm going to add a little bit more. But I think that I'm getting better each time I roll, so I might have to practice a little more. But these probably need a good 20 more minutes. That's why I wanted to cook some for you ahead of time so you had a chance to sample. And, this is going to make so much. I think what I might even do is I'm going to put some in that skillet and we're going to cook it so you can kind of see how it's going to boil down. Since we have a couple more minutes, might as well. So again, much like when we do a Mexican rice or a Spanish rice, sauteing the rice with all the veggies will really liberate some of the flavors. So for sure, you'll need a tight-fitting lid because here we are cooking rice, which is a lot more picky. I'm going to let it cook a little bit, and then I'll add some of the water in. And, that way we can make sure we're getting a good water to grain ratio. I could have added a little olive oil in the beginning, but there is olive oil in the mix. Yeah. So I'm just going to let that saute a little bit. While we're letting that heat it up, I want to start serving you some of the dolmas.
Suzanne, can I ask a question about the cast iron?
Yes.
Do you have to have that pot to cook that, or can it just be a regular pot?
It can be a regular pot. It's just that this is a really good way to do it because otherwise it will stick. Cast iron is so nice because it holds the heat really well. It takes a little while to heat up, but then it holds it. It doesn't have searing hot spots. Yeah, and this works. This is a special cooktop, that needs some the magnetic, but this works on a regular stove too. So it's such an all-around easy one to manage. All right, so let me get some. Mary, did you already bring me the little plates? I'm going to serve you guys up. So thank you so much for joining us in our day of the Turkish celebration. And I want to make sure you guys try dolmas at home and maybe even your beautiful red lentils. And let me know what variation you like the best, and make sure you send me your questions if you have them too. All right, we'll see you again soon.